10/7/2021. I'm Diane Barrett. I'm here with the BE Collection, and I'm interviewing today our guest, Cheri Mausteller. How did I do on that?
Very good.
Okay, thank you. So, what's your occupation at the present time?
At the present time, I'm retired from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
And what did you do for Pennsylvania?
I had numerous positions within the Commonwealth. My first position was as a corrections officer at a state correctional institution for women in Muncie, Pennsylvania. I did that for a little over a year. It was never my goal to be a corrections officer, but I wanted to be a counselor within the Department of Corrections. So the way to get your foot in the door with the state system is to start off in an entry-level position, and then it was much easier to get a counseling position after you were already in the system.
And did that occur? Did you?
Yes, it did.
Great.
I worked as a corrections counselor and a drug and alcohol counselor within the state prison system.
Wow. And prior to that, working for the Pennsylvania, did you do something else? Did you go to school?
Yes, I attended Bloomsburg University of Pennsylvania. I had a double major there, social work and criminal justice, because I knew that I wanted to help people. So I thought it was great to combine those, those two majors. And probably for the first third part of my career, I worked in social work type positions in child protective services and in mental health. Also, I worked at a family planning clinic. That was actually my first job after college, because I had done a college internship with a family planning clinic. And then the last 2/3, I would say, was all in law enforcement, working for the Department of Corrections and then the Board of Probation and Parole within the Commonwealth.
Wow, really interesting occupation history. Yeah. So what was your favorite of all those?
I would say that my last position, being a parole agent, in Pennsylvania, there are two types of parole agents. There are institutional parole agents and field agents. And when I retired, I was a field agent working out on the streets. And there, of all my occupations, that's where I really got to combine social work and criminal justice.
So give me an example of your day.
Well,
keep in mind that one of the reasons we're doing this whole collection is to educate people about who we are, what they can do, what they have done, and where they can go. So we call it Record the Past and Inspire the Future. So this is available to college students. It's on several archives now. And I can tell you be very helpful in guiding somebody just through your experience.
Okay. And thank you, by the way, for inviting me to do this.
Thank you for being here. That's the whole thing. Lauren said you're going to be recruiting a lot of people for us, so we need that. So thank you.
I'm certainly going to try. Yes.
Now we have a web page as of yesterday.
Oh, okay. I'll have to check that out.
Right, it looks pretty good.
Really, as a parole agent working out in the field, we were on call 24 hours a day. Supervising, I supervised both men and women who had served their time in a state correctional institution and then made parole. And my job was to supervise them then when they were out on the streets. So I might stop by their place of employment to check up on them there to see that they were really going to work like they were supposed to. If they were attending school, I might go there to check on them. I would go to their home. And most of these visits were unannounced. So they never knew what to expect. Sometimes we would do calls. I would have a partner and we would go out at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning to basically sit outside someone's house and make sure if they had a curfew that they weren't violating that curfew.
So were you armed? Is that
yeah. Yeah. Yes.
And did you have cause or reason to have to use that?
No, I'm very happy to say that in the course of my entire career, I never once pulled my weapon.
Mhm.
I guess I may have been crazy for thinking this, but I always thought that I could talk my way out of any situation. I don't think that would be the case nowadays because things are a lot different out there now than they were.
How they changed? How would you say they've changed?
I'll be honest, I think it's a lot
Yeah.
more violent out there now, and there's a lot more drugs and different types of drugs out there now than what there were in the late 80s, early 90s, and even up to 2000.
What's the longest a person can be on parole? I mean, as they say, well,
That would depend on their sentence.
Mhm.
Let me just say, for example, if someone were sentenced to 10 to 20 years, and you have to serve your minimum before you're eligible for parole. So a person would then have to serve 10 years
Mhm.
before they would be eligible for parole. And so let's say they made parole at their 10 years,
Mhm.
then they would have 10 years left to serve on supervised parole.
Wow, that's a long time, huh?
It is, but
Mhm.
for some people, maybe if they only had 3.5 to 7, say was their sentence,
Mhm.
then, and they made parole at their minimum, then they would only have 3.5 years left on parole.
So did you maintain like a clientele, so to speak, of so many people that you were supervising?
Yes, I
No,
usually
I know
had.
nothing about this, so I'm educating
That's
myself.
okay. I usually had a caseload of about 50, and it was it did seem like a lot back then to supervise, but it seemed like we were always short-staffed.
Mhm.
But it was always, it truly was manageable, but it was always revolving. The caseload was always revolving because some people would reach their maximum sentence,
Mhm.
and then they would no longer be on parole. Sometimes if they would have a parole violation, then they would go back inside of a state correctional institution. So they would come off my caseload and back inside the prison then. So it was changing in many ways.
Sounds like it. So when they finished, would there be a ceremony or a celebration or handshake?
Well, certainly a handshake,
Uh-huh.
that's for sure. And I was always very proud of them when they did complete their parole.
So they knew you and knew you were supporting them.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
What a gift.
Yeah.
What made you retire?
I was actually injured. I had a career-ending back injury. It occurred inside of a parolee's home.
Really?
And I've had numerous back surgeries, and I was never cleared medically to return to work.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to return to work, but because of the physical nature of the job, the physicians were never willing to clear me.
No, backs are very difficult.
Yes.
They don't seem to return to their normal status.
Right.
For injury, right. So what actually, what was the injury? What was the incident that caused that?
There was the home that I was in, it was a hoarding situation, and there was no electricity in the home, so it was dark. And there was a hole in the floor that they had a throw rug placed over top of, and I stepped on that where and basically fell.
Did you fall through the floor?
Yes.
Huh, wow. How awful. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well,
what was down there once you got there?
Oh, it was a basement, very dark and
dingy.
Dingy, yes, very basement, yes.
So I'm glad to see that you're standing and still alive.
Yes, thank you.
So what, if I were thinking of participating in the position you had, what kind of training would I need? I know you had education. Is there a specific educational background that's required, or?
I believe now, at least I can't say in any other state, but in Pennsylvania, it does require a bachelor's degree to be a parole agent and also to work as a counselor within the state prison system. If someone were interested in being a corrections officer, they would only need a high school degree.
Okay. So you'd recommend they get the bachelor's, gives them
Yes.
a little more power in terms of job security.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
So did you have a degree beyond the bachelor's?
No, I started towards a master's degree. And then when I got into working all the different shifts and different hours, I decided to stop at that time. And then I never returned to pursuing it.
And now you say, I'm retired.
Exactly.
I am who I am now. So where were you born?
Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Is that where Hershey candy bars come from?
Well, actually, it's within 20 to 30 minutes of there. Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
And you have siblings?
I do. I have a brother who's 14 months older than I am.
So are you close to him? Is he
Very
alive?
Yes, he is. He is alive. He lives in the same town that I do. And my parents are both still living, and they also live in the same town that we live in.
Which is what? What town do you live in?
Cape Coral, Florida.
I saw that on your information sheet. I thought, where is that? So
It's Southwest Florida.
Okay. And is your brother gay? Any gay people in your family besides you?
No, he is not gay. And as far as I know, there are no other gay relatives.
And when were you aware that your sexuality was not what you had probably grown up around?
I would say I was 23. It was within 1 year after graduating from college.
And that was the first inkling that you had that.
Yes, it was. Maybe in retrospect, when I look back, I played sports throughout high school and college. And I do remember a field hockey coach in high school that I felt an attraction to, but nothing. I mean, I didn't even think anything of it. And I'll be honest. Pardon?
Maybe you admired her.
I did. That's for sure. Yes. But I'll be honest, I don't even know if I heard the word. I grew up in a town of about 7,000 people. And I don't even know if I heard the word lesbian until after I was out of college.
How about homosexual? Did you hear that word?
That I had heard, yes. Yes.
So 23, you're out of college. And what was that aha moment? You said, oh, I'm a lesbian.
Well, I had friends, two friends that were lesbians, and they introduced me to another woman. I was very naive. And I'll be honest, I didn't even know for the longest time that they were lesbians. I mentioned earlier that I did a college internship at a family planning clinic. And when I graduated, they offered me a job. So that was my first job out of college. But when I was doing my internship there, the nurse practitioner, when you're sitting around and like on a Friday, someone would say, well, what are you going to do this weekend? She would always say, well, Margie and I are going skiing, or Margie and I are doing this, or we're doing that. And it was always Margie, Margie, Margie. And I knew that Margie was a woman. And I remember thinking to myself, don't you have any male friends? And then so we'd come into work on a Monday morning and everyone's sitting around with their coffee and saying, so what do you do this weekend? And again, it was always Margie, Margie. Right, Margie and I. And I was thinking, she never mentions a man. And I'm in college at the time, still not thinking anything of this. Anyway, so it turned out that the two of them were together, and they introduced me to a friend of theirs. But just because they were introducing me, I didn't even know that she was a lesbian at first.
So you didn't know their motivation?
Pardon?
You didn't know that their motivation was?
Oh, correct. Correct.
yeah, eliminate the opportunity for online dating. You didn't have to do that. Huh. And when you were growing up, what was your spiritual background or religious background?
I was raised Lutheran.
Mhm. What's a Lutheran view on homosexuality?
Well, certainly back then it was not accepted, and I'll be honest, I don't know what it is now. I think it's a lot more liberal than it was.
Well, it's interesting because in 1962, I didn't know this, but it came out in an interview of Carolyn Glacier that you can research on our webpage now. Anyway, she had to take an oath that she was not homosexual in order to get a job teaching.
Oh.
And, it made sense to me because, like you, I had a attraction for different teachers or instructors, and I tried to pursue it in a way that never worked.
Okay.
But now I didn't know what I was doing, but I was very drawn to them. But now, after hearing her and another woman having the same oath to take, so to speak, that they weren't homosexual, it made sense. That they just couldn't come forward,
right?
And yet the women especially liked them. They were athletes. I think a lot in the sport. What was your favorite sport when you were in high school?
It was a tie, I would say, between field hockey and softball.
Whoa. Huh.
But softball, I played a lot longer than field hockey because after I got out of college, field hockey ended, but there were always women's softball leagues. So I played softball until I was almost 40 years old.
Oh, good for you. What position?
Catcher.
Mm-hmm. Did you play on lesbian teams?
That might be why I have bad knees.
Right. Oh, that's funny.
Right.
Yeah, did you play on lesbian teams?
Yes.
Yeah. So a lot of women have done that.
Yes.
Unfortunately, not an athlete. All I could do was swim. So
that's certainly a sport. That's an athlete.
That's a life-saving device, right?
Yeah.
But I tried everything else because that's where the lesbians were.
Right. Have you tried golf?
I did. I'm from a golfing family. I'm the only one who can't golf.
Oh, okay.
I like to achieve things, and you can get through the course, but you have to be able to get the ball in that hole. I'm not good at that.
Well, it's just fun to get out there and be out there with nature. And a lot of times you see deer wandering around when you're on a golf course and other wildlife.
So then when you were attracted to this woman, or you were arranged, that arrangement was made, at what point did you tell your family that you were a lesbian?
Well, that's an interesting story there. I didn't actually tell them on my own. They found out because someone anonymously had called my mom and said, "Do you know that Vicky is a lesbian and is involving your daughter in the same type of relationship?"
How thoughtful of her.
To make matters worse, it was the day before Mother's Day that year when that occurred. And so that's certainly not the way that I wanted this to come out. And initially, my parents were very upset. They wanted me to see a psychiatrist, which I thought, sure, I'll do that. I mean, I didn't think there was anything wrong with me, but I thought, well, if it'll make them happy, sure, I'll go. And I think I maybe went 2 or 3 times. And then basically he said to them, look, this is who your daughter is. There is nothing wrong with her. And it wasn't smooth sailing right away after that, but it certainly is now. My parents just want me to be happy, and they accept whoever I might be with. And they're treated just like family.
That's great. That's to their credit and yours. No, that's not easy. And part of
I'm sure it's not. They truly have come a long, long way.
Then did you get involved in a relationship with that woman that Margie entered? Okay.
Yes, I did. We were together for about 4 years.
And after that, did you pursue?
Well, we are still friends to this day. She still lives back in Pennsylvania, but we talk every few months.
We usually stay connected. It's like old lovers, yeah.
I always prefer it that way. Yes.
And after that relationship, did you pursue others, or are
I
you in a
did.
relationship now?
I am not currently in a relationship, but yes, I did have other relationships since then. Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
So what would you advise people as the glue of a relationship? When do you know when to get into it, and when do you know when to leave it?
Oh boy. Well, I think I always say this, that honesty and trust go hand in hand, and you have to have that, to me anyway. Those are the building blocks of a positive relationship, because if you don't have those two things, it's really hard to build and go up from there.
Mm-hmm. And how do you leave? How do you know when, oh, this is not working?
Oh boy, that's
No,
that's a tough one. Hopefully, I guess in a way, it's always nice if it's a mutual thing, but it hardly ever works out that that way. I guess when it's unhealthy for one or both of the individuals, then sometimes it just doesn't work, and then it's time to move on.
It is. It's hard to say it's not working, but
it is.
That time does come.
Yeah.
I remember somebody saying, well, I want to be with men. I said, well, sorry. I knew that was a sign. I said, well, this is not working, I guess.
Right, exactly.
I can't change this. So,
yeah, there are certain things you can work on, but that would not be one of them.
Certain phrases sort of say, wow, I better pay attention. Pack my bag, get another rental. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what are you doing now in retirement? Do you have?
I volunteer because that's one way. I volunteer at a local hospice in 3 different areas within the hospice. One is called the Tuck-In program. Another is called Hope for Pets. And then I also help in the supply room. But the Tuck-In program is where we make phone calls, usually on a Thursday, to people who are receiving hospice care, but still in their own homes. Sometimes we actually talk with the patient. Other times we might talk with a family member, a caregiver. And we just basically check in before the weekend to see if they need any equipment, supplies, medication. It helps to take the some of the load off the weekend staff, because if we know that someone's going to run out of medication before the weekend, we get it to them so that there's not that problem on the weekend, although hospice is 24/7.
Do they have to pay for that? The Tuck-In program?
Oh, no, they do not. That's just part of one of the programs that hospice offers. And then the pet program, because I like to consider myself an animal advocate, the pet program is for people who are in hospice and need to make arrangements for their pets. We've had dogs, cats, birds, rabbits, even a tortoise one time that as they're in the end stages, if they don't have a family or friend that can take the pet, then we take pictures of the pet, we do a little write-up on the pet, and then we do an email blast that really literally goes to thousands of people in trying to find a home for that pet. And it really does ease their mind if they know ahead of time that their pet is going to have a safe place to go when they pass.
So you're busy with that.
Yeah, that part hasn't been too busy lately.
I mean, just the whole house.
It can be busy.
Yeah, I can see how you got there. Besides your brother, just your own background. I mean, parole stuff, you're helping people.
Right. And as I said, that's when I'm happiest.
Yeah, following your passion, I call that.
Right.
Good. So in closing, do you have questions that you'd like to ask me about this, what we're doing here, or where we're going? We don't know where we're going, I'll tell you. I can answer that one right now.
Okay, that's okay to not know where you're going right now.
The door is open, so to speak.
Yeah, well, very good. Very good. No, I would just like to thank you and your partner, Marge, and Lauren Lloyd for undertaking this project. I think it's going to be wonderful, and I just look forward to keep hearing and seeing more about it.
So if you knew you were going to die soon, what would you like to be remembered for?
Oh, I would say my compassion and my kindness and respect. And when I say respect, this might be overly simplified, but when I worked in the prison system, if I asked an inmate to do something, I said please, and if they did it, I said thank you, because I know they were there. As the saying goes, they were not there for singing too loud in the church choir. That was the saying back then. But some of them, the crimes were horrific. But I look at it this way, their punishment was being sent to prison. I, as a staff member, was not there to further punish them or treat them poorly in any way. That wasn't going to help the situation. And I guess in corrections and in parole especially, when I said to you earlier that I always thought I could talk my way, I never drew my weapon. I always thought I could talk my way out of it.
You're a good talker. No, you are.
Thank
you.
you.
Said really well, really.
I think that when they were inside prison, they were called inmates. When they were out on parole, they were called parolees. Mm-hmm. But whichever way, inside or outside, I think they always knew that I genuinely cared about them and the outcome that they would have. So
that's wonderful.
I'm very pleased about that. I have no regrets.
Mm-hmm. That's a good thing to be remembered for. And I'm sure all those people appreciate that about you.
I'd like to think so, and probably most of them do, yes.
I mean, I don't see respect being overdone. I mean, we can always put it out there.
Right.
So thank you. And this concludes our time together. I look forward to your referrals. I look forward to knowing you again.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again,
California.
Okay. And thank you very much. And again, thank you for the invitation.